Fifth grade, today you are getting back your drawing, your tile, you have a series of tools. The first thing that you're going to do is you are going to take your picture and you're going to cut it out. We're going to use this actual drawing to transfer it to the tile itself. The scraps of paper can be thrown away. The back side of your paper, your back side of your square, you're going to start coloring with pencil. Now I started it just so you wouldn't have to watch me do it the whole video. This is going to be what helps us transfer the drawing to your paper or to your clay. So you might even, if you have time, go the other direction too. The more lead you get on the back of the paper, the nicer you'll see it transfer. So what I'm doing is just coloring the whole back. This might take some time, might get you messy. That's okay. We're going to wash hands at the end. The next thing that you're going to do is inside your bag, you're going to get your tile back out, slide out the plate, set your bag aside, take your damp paper toweling, the piece that you used last time, gently lift it off, set this aside. You can re-wet it at the end of class and reuse it. Then what you're going to do is before we get too far, before we transfer and all of that, I want you to take your tile off, keep it in your hand, and then with a sharp tool, there's some little sticks in here and things that are pointed, you're just going to write your name nice and clear. Don't poke it all the way through, and then 5th grade, and then your teacher's initial. And then flip it back over. Remember, keep it on the paper towel. That keeps it from sticking on the plate. Get it nice and even. If you have little bumps and chunks and cracks on your clay, it won't matter. Then you're going to take your drawing, set it on here, kind of give it a little bit of a smooth, and you're going to use a tool to trace the main parts of it. You don't need to get into all the details. So like the outside edge, you're pushing down. I think I'm going to use pencil. Pen feels like it wants to poke through. And I'm just going to go over, and it's okay to impress into the clay a little bit. I'm going to do the outside of its wing. I'm going to go around the top of its head. I just want it, see how my thing doesn't fit? That's okay. I'm like just leaving that part out then. Anything that gets kind of cropped off, it won't be that big of a deal. Maybe the branch itself, if it pokes through, that's all right. As I trace along, I'm just trying to think of the main components of what I need to show. If you want to put in the small detail, that's fine, but not all of it's going to be incised, which means drawing on the clay. Some of it's actually going to be built up, and some of it's going to be carved back. So you just need like the main things, okay? Maybe even just his little beak, just so I know where it's at. Then what you're going to do is you're going to then gently peel this off. What you have is a very blurry version of your drawing, so that you can kind of come up with what you want to do next, okay? After you peel this off, this goes in the garbage. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. This does not go in the garbage. You might want to refer to it as your drawing, so you can keep it in your bag or just right in front of you so you know what your project is going to look like. Don't get rid of this. I'm sorry I even said that. I'm way ahead of myself. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start thinking about maybe just certain pieces. You're going to be able to get clay today out of the bag. It's going to be cut into blocks. You can also grab water because remember you have to score and slip things on. So you're going to have to start thinking from the back side up. So what I need to do first is I need to take a clay tool and kind of draw these lines in better. When you're using a sharp tool like this, you want it on an extreme angle rather than straight up and down. When you draw, you don't want a bunch of crumbs in there like that. You can always sweep it aside. Clean off the tip a lot. Go ahead and just kind of draw in over the pencil lines that you used already once before. And then wherever there's chunks, try to get them out of there or smooth them down or roll them off. just to kind of get the outline going so you don't lose the basics. I'm drawing in his wing. I'm going around his head, kind of lifted off the top, so I'm not getting super deep right there. Getting all of the outlining in that I did for transferring my drawing, just to get the basic shape of it going. His little beak, the branch. You can see me tug at the tip of my sharp tool. That gets the extra clay off. It's okay that there's little balls of it on my plate. It won't matter. Then you can kind of roll some of it off, clean up some of the lines. Sometimes you have to smooth over it and then unclog it again. I'm going to get a little closer so you can see. Now, some parts are going to be incised, which is drawing on it. Some parts are going to be carved, which I will give you loop tools later. But some parts are going to also be built up. So let's make one of his little eyeballs. What you're going to do is you're going to start out with a ball of clay, and then you're going to shape it and cut it and whatever you need to do to get that size. So I have this little ball. I'm going to then flatten the ball. Get it to be about the size that I want. Now it's too big, so what you can use is the fettling knife or any of the other sharp plastic tools. Right directly on your table, you can use burlap to protect your table from getting too messy or from sticking. You can just cut and trim. Then, if I wanted to attach this, remember I can't just stick it on like that. I actually have to score it and slip it. You can use any tool to add score marks. You have to score where you're putting it and what the piece. Get it a little bit wet. Hang on. Zoom out so you can see what I'm doing. All I did was dip my finger slightly in the water. I don't want it too wet. Kind of swirl it around, which makes slip. And then you're going to wiggle this on, and then it should stick. Then, because my eye has different shapes and stuff, see how I have a bigger circle and then a smaller circle? You can use tools to stamp different size things. And for a pupil, I can go in and use the back side of this tool. So all these tools are going to give you different textures and things. So this is starting to build up. If I were to make his beak, I could make the beak the same way. Pinch off some clay just from the chunk that you're using. You can shape it with your fingers. You then score it if you like it. Score where you're going to put it. And go ahead and push it on, trying to keep the pieces still recognizable. If there's any chunks or bumps or things that you don't like, a wet fingertip or like a damp fingertip is a great smoothing tool. You can also, once it's on, add different cuts or textures into things. So see how I have these lines in his eyes? A nice clean tool, get all of the junk off of it, and it will be even easier to work with. You can add all those different textures in, changing, turning the plate if you have to. All the way around I could go. So already you can see that it's starting to look like my drawing. To make this shape here, I might take and roll a small coil, which I could do on the table, but I'm going to do in the air. See that little up, down, up, down? I can actually shape my coil however I want it to be. And then I would score where I want it to go. That. Add the slip and attach. If something you put on and you don't like it, just peel it off. You can always smooth things. You can take things off. You can carve back into them. So as we're working, we're building our animal forward. You can carve back into it. You could add a frame all the way around your tile. You just don't want to get thicker than a 1/2 inch. Like if we were to attach something this fat to our clay, it would be too thick, and when I fire it, it'll pop apart into different chunks. You don't want your part to not make it through the firing process. Best thing for a branch would be a coil. You can kind of bend and shape it to the sizes that you want, squeezing and shaping. You can use it and cut while you're working with it. Don't forget to score. That's the biggest thing. Scoring is so huge. I cannot tell you enough. If you don't put these marks, your pieces will fall off and it will be pointless. So here's a tree branch. I could go in and add wood texture to my tree branch and so forth. So we're just starting. I'll do another demonstration further on of how I can kind of carve and do other textures and things once it's all put together. But right now we are just kind of transferring our idea, incising, and starting to build up. Extra clay at the end of class. If you haven't used it, just put it in the bucket. I will get you new stuff every time. You don't want it to keep it on your plate because it could dry up by the time I see you next week. At the end of class, you are going to re-dampen your paper towel, squeeze it over that bucket, line and snug up all of the damp paper toweling all the way over your entire plate. Put it inside, being real gentle, not to warp it or bend the tile. You want it to be nice and flat. Get all of the air out of your bag. Zip it from end to end. If you have any air that hasn't been kind of sunk out, that air can help or make your tile dried up. At the end of class, all of the clay tools go in the clay tool containers at your seats. Oh, I forgot one major thing. Open that bag back up. Put your drawing in so you have something to refer to. If you put it on top, you might be able to recognize your bag right away a lot faster than reading names. We are going to pass around sponges. You're going to wipe your own area. Water cups need to be dumped and set on the counter. We will wash hands after I see that all your table is completely ready to go and all of your teammates from your table are also ready to go. So do not go to the sink until I say so. All right, thank you for listening.